Well, with so few players on the conservative side that really understand imaging and messaging, Sabo really stands out. His campaigns in the past have been absolutely incredible and remarkable, and turns out that Sabo got himself into a little trouble on Facebook. Hi, everybody. I'm Bill Whittle here with Steve Green and Scott Ott. This is your right angle on Facebook versus Sabo. Part 1. As you can see from the pictures that we showed earlier, Sabo doesn't pull any punches, and he understands the power of an image. Now, I do understand the nature of our audience and how decent these people are and how family-oriented they are. So we're going to have to make a few adjustments to this. He put a star in there, but for the sake of the discussion, let's just assume that Mark Zuckerberg is some kind of feathered animal, and Sabo wrote a poster saying, "Pluck, Zuck." Now, these Pluck, Zuck posters appeared all over the place using a nice little twist on the Facebook pointy finger thing. And it got a little traction. It turns out Mark Zuckerberg is toying with the idea of a 2020 presidential run. So Sabo, who's not a fan, basically put up these Pluck Zuckerberg pictures all over town. And then his account at Facebook was terminated.
Huh.
Steve Green.
Yes, Bill Whittle.
Probably a coincidence.
In my experience, Bill, there's no such thing as coincidence. No, wow, where to start with Facebook? And you know, Bill, we run our videos on Facebook, and they're just going to yank us after this one, I'm afraid.
Hi, Mark. Everything's okay with us and you, isn't it?
Yeah,
we love you, Mark Zuckerberg.
What are we going to do? If this isn't Sabo's latest, it's still brilliant. I saw this. It was there was one version at a bus stop, another on a park bench, and it showed the famous Apple ad with Steve Jobs doing this with the "Think Different" motto, and right next to it, it showed the Google CEO kind of laughing with the phrase "Not so much." So. Everybody has been having fun with this. The problem is Facebook can't take a joke. And what I mean is, it's not that they don't have a sense of humor, although they probably don't. You know, it's one of the world's largest corporations. It's that they can't have a sense of humor because they collect all of this data, your every click, your every search, that high school sweetheart you were surreptitiously looking up to see, you know, is she married well or whatever. And they have all of this on you, in essence. So when somebody gets on Facebook and starts poking fun at the boss who wants to run for president someday and who has all of this data on, has Facebook reached 2 billion users yet? I think it has.
Something enormous.
Yeah, and of those, 150 million are Americans, and we had not even 130 million vote in the last election. So what we're talking about here is one incredibly powerful guy who, by the way, I don't know if you know this about Zuckerberg, but when Facebook went public, its stock was structured so that he can't be forced out. He can't be outvoted by his own board or any of that. He maintains total control of his company because he doesn't want to happen to him what happened to Steve Jobs and when he got kicked out of Apple back in 1985. So this is really a one-man operation written into its own stock offerings. It's hardwired into the company that it's a one-man ship. And boy, I got to tell you, that one man brooks no dissent.
Scott, you know, we saw this giant organization, CNN, pounce on a guy who pounced on the wrong guy, as it turns out, who made that GIF sequence of Donald Trump wrestling CNN to the ground, and they threw the full weight of the corporation behind the fact that some individual citizen made some ridiculous, low-quality video that offended their corporate sensibilities. And I don't want to get into the whole Facebook as a private company and you know, as a monopoly. We've covered that ground before. But I do have a question for you, Scott. Zuckerberg is one of a handful of the richest men in the world. He's very, very young. He's absolutely internationally known. His company is essentially one of the 4 or 5 top dominant companies in the world. So my question to you, which would be my question to Zuckerberg, is why so serious?
It's funny how the left sort of jumps on board with whatever Zuckerberg is doing, even though usually if you're a filthy rich guy like that, there's something terribly wrong with you, and it just reminds me, literally, we talked about this yesterday at our backstage meeting, which members can see at BillWhittle.com. And today, in my Facebook feed, one of my friends posted a picture of what appeared to be a family or a bunch of friends, I don't know, 6 or 7 people, posing dramatically in front of Trump Tower. Every one of them was wearing a T-shirt that said, Pluck Trump. Trump. Okay, so the same word that you were referring to, fully evident there on the shirts and multicolored T-shirts. I mean, they obviously bought these at some place. Somebody's selling these things, and not only were they able to post that picture on Facebook, and my friend did not get booted off Facebook, but no doubt somebody's making a fistful of dollars selling these T-shirts. So it just makes you wonder why it's okay for some people and not okay for others. It reminds me of a time when I was in the Poconos a few years back, and this will tell you how many years back by what happened, and I saw a guy wearing a T-shirt that had George W. Bush, portrayed as a vampire, sucking blood from the neck of Lady Liberty, the Statue of Liberty, okay?
I remember it.
And I remember thinking, I don't know if I actually did this or I just thought about doing it, but I wanted to go over to the guy and say, oh my goodness, you better get a jacket on or something like that. If the Bushies see you with that T-shirt on, man, you're toast. And it was just kind of funny to me to think that here this guy thinks that President George Bush is somehow stripping him of liberty, but he lives in a country where he can walk around in public wearing a picture of the president doing that. So, I think that whatever people want to say is fine. I think that there are some things that are inappropriate to say in public that probably shouldn't be on Facebook, but that's what unfriending is for.
Yeah.
Hey, let me throw one thing out. Scott, you said that mysteriously, here's a really rich guy that the left doesn't hate. Listen, the left is fine with obscenely rich people as long as they parrot the party line. And Zuckerberg doesn't just parrot the party line. Now he's enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, an artist basically puts up some posters and his account is terminated for hate speech. Now, as many of you know, Facebook is a way that many of us make a living, not maybe directly, sometimes directly through advertising. Same thing with YouTube. I'm going to lump the two together, basically. And as we've discussed before, these companies like Facebook and YouTube are approaching monopoly status where they simply now control so much of the world's communication goes through these private companies that there is, in fact, a public interest at stake here. But I think two things really stand out. First of all, it does go to show you just how thin-skinned the left is, not just Mark Zuckerberg and not just his company and not just YouTube and not just CNN. The fact that people are criticizing them and criticizing them effectively is absolutely terrifying and outrageous to them. They simply don't know what to do about it, which leads me to my second point. The Facebook action against Sabo is a visible, highly tangible example of what is actually going on millions of times a day invisibly, which is this company has a political agenda. It will not take any disrespect from anybody. And while they can't terminate every single conservative's account because that would look bad, what they can do is they can make sure that you don't get your message out there and that these messages are suppressed. I talked with the marketing director at Prager University. I don't know what their total likes is. It's 1.2 million, something like that. It's some big number. And he said, we looked at the metrics, and when we put out a video, it gets seen by 2% of the people that liked our page. He said the reason they liked our page was because they wanted to see this content. 2%. So the game is afoot underground. But meanwhile, Mark, if you're thinking about becoming president, you don't have a plucking chance at it.
I was waiting for it.
I thought about it and I went for it. And it probably cost me couple hundred members. In any event, if you'd like to replace the members that we just lost here at BillWhittle.com, you can certainly do that. We're definitely dependent on your membership, and we need you now more than ever because we have to push harder since the resistance against opposing points of view is growing ever more stringent and visible every single day. I'm Bill Whittle. We'll see you next week right here on Right Angle.